Okay. Right. There is the Three of Pentacles in your underlying energy. Right. That's crazy. I said that, and then that's what comes up in your underlying energy, which is about planning for the future. I think you don't know necessarily whether or not this person is exactly as serious as you need them to be if you're going to start something long term or something like serious like that. There may be somebody around you that you're trying to cut off, or someone around you that's trying to end something, because the King of Swords could be trying to cut ties, and the Ten of Cups is obviously the ending of a cycle. Could be you guys trying to cut some ties with some people, trying to end some stuff. You know what I mean? Could be trying to wrap some things up. But I feel like the King of Swords is like super serious. The challenge itself is super serious. But the underlying energy, it kind of ties in with this, you know, this is about planning for the future, making plans for the future, or trying to, you know, figure out where you're going, perhaps before you're there. Try to at least come up with some sort of goals with it. And this is usually with people. This is usually with friends, family, or your partner especially. Okay, and you have the Ace of Pentacles behind that, so there's a new beginning that's starting up. So you're already at that period in time where you're like, okay, I know that I want to start something new with this person. I've committed already. What do I need to do to get to where I need to be? And I feel like somebody's got a serious cap on because they have the heart of the reading, the King of Swords. Somebody's being extremely serious, or you guys are dating in Aries, Leo, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. I don't know why I always do that. I don't know why I confuse the fire signs with the air signs, whatever. Yeah, you guys could be seeing a Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. But the thing is, it could be you as well, because the kings are fixed signs, and you're a fixed sign, Taurus. So if you're coming up as a King of Swords, which I don't like this energy for you at all, you guys are feeling like, you know, like fact-oriented rather. Like you're not interested in anything that's not factual. You're not interested in anything that's not logical. And I feel like you're really thinking and really being careful with your words in a way. Because the King of Swords knows what to say at every moment, and I feel like at the same time the King of Swords cuts people. I think you're severing relationships at this time. You're ending relationships that don't really work with you, that are not authentic to who you are. Because the Ten of Cups is what's crossing. Now, the obstacle is the completion of a cycle, right? The King of Swords is someone that's very serious, that's not, you know, that doesn't connect with those emotions. You guys are very detached right now, and I feel like it's crossing the Ten of Cups. I feel like for some of you guys, you may be detaching yourself and causing the ending of a relationship involuntarily. So be very careful of that. But I feel like as well, this sort of detachment is there because I feel like there's some sort of ending of a cycle here. Let me go and take a look. Why is the Ten of Cups crossing the King of Swords? Why? But what is this Ten of Cups actually? Wow, the Ten of Wands, which is a burden, and then the Page of Pentacles. So there's some sort of burden with this Ten of Cups. Something's keeping you guys, like, I feel like the thing that's like weighing down on you guys the most is this Ten of Wands, and I feel like the Ten of Cups is like, you're ready to sever relationships if they're burdensome to you, if they're a lot to deal with, if they're more effort than it is rewarding. And the Page of Pentacles is talking about taking time and looking through, being very meticulous and looking at things very closely. You know what I'm saying? You guys are very, very detail oriented at this moment, and you're not taking anything that's not going to, you know, benefit you in the future. And I feel like that has to do with the relationship that you're currently in, or relationships, or something that's been out of alignment and not harmonious for y'all. It's time, like, you guys are looking at those as chopping blocks, things to chop off and kind of cut your losses with. Be careful doing that during a Venus retrograde, though, because some things, like, just like how relationships start and end in Venus retrograde, start in retrograde, end in Venus retrograde. The same thing. Something that ends in retrograde can be possibly revived during the retrograde. Depends, right? We'll see. Nothing really lasts when it comes to retrogrades. But so in your past energy, right? So the reason why how we even got here was because of the Knight of Cups. I feel like maybe there was somebody that was, you know, that was a really lovely, your dream ideal person. This could have been that you were focusing very much on your emotions, focusing on what you wanted more so than anything. When you dealt with somebody that was very inconsistent with how they were, like one minute they feel this thing and the next minute they felt something different. Could have been a Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio that you've been dealing with. But I feel like this Knight of Cups energy is that you may have had a very romantic streak about you, and I feel like you were kind of going about, you know, your life in a very, you know, romantic fashion. You're just being very romantic. Knight in shining armor, females, you know, you guys were being, you know, you guys are just being romantic, all sides, male or female, it doesn't matter. But now you guys have the moon as your present. So the moon coming up like that is like you don't really know what to do. And I feel like it has to do with this person being so inconsistent. If you are dealing with a person who's inconsistent in the past, because it makes sense. The Three of Wands in your external energy in the moon, that's, y'all, you don't know what to expect. Like, it's obviously everything's confusing. There's not a lot of certainty. You kind of have to kind of go with your intuition with most of the time. And I feel like there's a lot of facing the fears as well. I think you can expect that there's some things that are uncomfortable coming your way because maybe you were too hard on somebody beforehand. And I feel like you may get some sort of realization that would maybe not realization, but somebody, I don't know if somebody did anything, but what I do know is that you're expecting something to be very unpleasant or very uneasy. And I feel like it has to do with being uncomfortable. It has to do with facing your fears, you know, dealing with people, dealing with something, but, you know, that makes you anxious, because the moon can bring up that sort of energy, anxiety and stuff like that. So there's a lot of craziness, and I feel like it has to do with somebody that was very soft, very gentle, very sweet, but, you know, couldn't really couldn't really get up to anything, or couldn't really match up, if that makes sense. Okay. Why is the Knight of Cups in your past? Let's see that. The Knight of Cups isn't the Hermit. So yeah, this is about you. What it is that you want. You're focused on what it is that you want. Your heart's desire, your ideal person. The Hermit's coming up as a very self-oriented card. This person, I feel like either, yeah, it could be a Virgo as well, but the thing, like an old lover, a friend that wants more. And now you're confused because you don't know where the hell that came from. Probably you don't know what to expect from this person. And I feel like you may have been like, yeah, I just feel like somebody's around you, or, you know, the challenge is being very serious, right? The King of Swords. Someone that is, you know, that is clear, authentic, that communicates openly. And I feel like you may be interacting with somebody that may be very detached in how they feel, but they have some hidden feelings and they haven't said anything, because the Knight of Cups and the Hermit can indicate somebody that knows what they want, knows what they feel, but they've been keeping it by themselves. Keeping it to themselves. Or this person was trying to discover or figure out what it is that they wanted. Now, I think at the present, the reason why the moon's coming up is because I feel like you hadn't come to some sort of conclusion with that energy. If this is you, you haven't really figured it out yet, and it's at the same time kind of confusing. Nothing seems very clear to you, and I can understand why the future will be the Hangman for you, considering that there is a lot of confusing stuff. But the thing is that the reason why everything is so heightened and uncomfortable and weird, and you kind of have this protective energy about you this time again, that you're ready to cut somebody off to protect yourself. I feel like it has to do with the fact that you may have to just tap into your emotions to see what's going on in that. You know, because the moon talks about, you know, connecting with your emotions, connecting with your higher self, listening to your intuition during times of uncertainty, and this is one of those times. And I feel like doing so will be able to help you get out of your situation, where you can get out of, you know, not necessarily get out of a situation, but more so surrender to the circumstance, or, you know, so you don't feel like you're stuck, you're trapped. You don't feel like you're not going to be able to do anything. Everything just feels like it's just going to be this way for a while. And the Hangman is like, you're not moving or making any progress until you see the situation from a different perspective, and that may be that, you know, when it comes to happiness, when it comes to, you know, things like that, it doesn't have to be a hell of a lot of work to do. You don't ever have to carry the load to have happiness. And that's the thing. I feel like you may have suffocated your emotional aspects of yourself too. You may have been very romantic in the past, but then at the same time, you may have suffocated or, you know, tried to, you know, keep that hidden because you found that being in relationships have gotten to be very burdensome and never actually amount to anything with the Page of Pentacles. And usually the Page of Pentacles does amount to something. But I feel like for some reason, like there's always like an offer of something moving forward, but then, you know, there's like this ending, like something just didn't work out. Now, I don't think that's the case. I feel like for lots of you guys, there may be somebody around you that is trying to open up and trying to get you to see them, or trying to open a segue for love again, but it's kind of confusing. You may not see that because you're focusing on your fears and your discomfort. And of course, the underlying energy was talking about planning for the future. I feel like this is about what you see regarding being with somebody, period. Like if you're with someone or if you're dating someone and you don't really see a future with them, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't pursue it. It just means that you may have to feel it out, because the Eight of Wands is your goal, aim, vision / advice, which is talking about moving forward, making progress, communication, talking, because that's the biggest thing you need to do. This is the biggest thing I can say. You may have to just communicate, but make progress by pushing forward, by communicating clearly, being open about how you are, you know what I mean? Because the wands are in the air, flying through really fast, and they're not obstructing each other. It's very much clear and easy to see. And right now, if you are in a place of confusion, it doesn't mean that you have to act confused. It just means that you have to be more clear. Because right now, the King of Swords is the challenge, because you're not feeling like you have any sort of certainty, but you do. You have your truth. You have your beliefs, you have your ways of thinking, you have all of these things that will help you get through this time of the moon. And I feel like you may not end up with the Hangman energy, but if you ever find yourself doing so, it may be that it's time for you to change your strategy or change your way of thinking or what have you, because the Hangman talks about seeing things from a different perspective or another angle, which is why he's hanging upside down, to get a different view of what he's been looking at for ages that he can never figure out. But the thing is that I feel like the communication has to be clear. Talking has to be clear. There may have been even an ending of a relationship because there wasn't a lot of communication or clear communication. And clear communication about how one thinks, how one, you know, believes, especially in why is that attached, what emotions are attached to those beliefs. That's the biggest thing I feel. Now, I already talked about the external energy, which is the Three of Wands here, which is this card here. And this talks about expectations. It talks about, you know, waiting for your ships to come in. And I feel like you're kind of confused as to what you should do until then. And I feel like right now is to figure out why what you got to honestly just go through, be in the moment. Because right now there's not much you can do other than speak clearly and do the best that you can with what you got. Now, again, with your outcome, you have the Knight of Wands, which talks about going by the moment, being in the moment. This is somebody that definitely lives by their emotions, but lives by how they feel in the moment and what really makes them happy, what makes them passionate. And I feel like for some of you guys, you may have to just kind of do that same very thing. But the thing is, you may interact with a Sagittarius or something like that. You may interact with somebody you feel is very unreliable, but that's not the case. Maybe they're not unreliable. The situation is that they're not untrustworthy. The thing is that they do what they want when they want to do it. If they don't want to do it, they don't do it. Which can make them feel very unreliable. And I feel like, honestly, this is not the message. I don't think the message is that there's somebody coming in that's going to be very unreliable to you. I feel like mostly the message is live on the unreliable side. Don't be so focused on... Don't be so serious at this moment. Because right now you're dealing with a lot. And you may have to just find the fun and enjoy the moment for the most part, because right now you got the serious cap on. King of Swords for you, Taurus, it's not pretty, because you have to be very serious. And I feel like you may be killing yourself in a way, trying to be very serious when you really don't feel that way. But you really just kind of, you know, everything is kind of like confusing when it comes to being serious. You know what I mean? So let's go ahead and see what's going on with your wisdom of the oracle for this week. What a very interesting reading. You get the tribe. Okay. And the tribe is talking about being surrounded by people that have your back. There's safety in numbers, a friend of mine says. And the tribe really also talks about, you know, knowing who the people that are in your close-knit group are, and then pretty much, you know, knowing who has your back at all times. This is a real test of commitment, of loyalty. This is leaning on family. Right? Identify who your family is, because right now you don't have to do anything and everything by yourself. I feel like maybe for some of you guys, you may have been pursuing stuff on your own, but you don't have to. Maybe you don't have to do this stuff on your own. Maybe you can, you know, allow people to lend you a hand. Because if you're serious and stuff and you're trying to do stuff by yourself, maybe you have a family around you that you're neglecting, trying to do it all by yourself. But you could make this a kind of a big venture for everyone, you know, especially if it's affecting other people. Let them in. You guys have show you that you care. That's another card for the King of Swords. The King of Swords has an issue when it comes to expressing his emotions. Like, it may seem like this guy is just, you know, doing the thing that he's doing. The King of Swords, you know what I mean? Doing what he does, and not really giving a fuck about what the outcome of it is, whether the truth may be painful. He can be very detached from that regard, and I could tell that you guys have been detached regarding something. And I feel like right now, don't do that right now, like, especially if you guys are feeling very vulnerable. Like, you do not want to lie about how you feel. You don't want to cover up how you feel. You definitely don't want to suppress it. And I know the masculine aspect of all of us are going to be coming out to, you know, to kind of protect the Venus aspect of ourselves that are feeling very weak at the moment, since Venus is going retrograde. However, it's about accepting and embracing what we're feeling, so that way we can make the best decisions possible. Because right now, yeah, our feminine energy is under review, but that doesn't mean that it's completely out of commission. It's just doing some work. It's doing some extra work right now. It's not moving forward like the rest of the planets. And I feel like don't shut down, because don't shut down. Just, you know, be aware of how you feel. Know how you feel. Knowing how you feel, and that will help make progress. But you have to be clear about that too. And especially if it's affected by other people, let somebody know. You know what I mean? Don't keep it to yourself. Higher friend, excuse me, there's no higher friend in this reading. The moon does indicate concealing things. You know, so things that are in the dark, things are hidden. What are you hiding? What are you hiding? Or what are you trying to hide based off of what you're afraid of? You know? And I feel like you guys are trying to hide from the fears, but don't do that right now, because the reason why you're doing it, especially, is like, you know, you guys could be telling me that you're being very strong, but the King of Swords is protecting himself. He's hiding a piece of himself to be able to do a certain action, to be the logical King of Swords that he is. So if you hide that piece of you, you're also suppressing your feelings, your fears. Be careful doing that right now. That's all I have to say, Taurus. Other than that, you guys, you know, do whatever you feel like you have to do. Trust your own intuition. Don't listen to just any tarot reader, especially not me, when it comes to doing what's best for you. Even though this is advice for how to handle this week, it doesn't mean that you have to be this way, okay?